In episode 63, we started doing some experiments with 3D. We created this cube that moves to wherever the mouse is and then randomly to the front and to the back, and it's also spinning slowly. Let's continue with our 3D experiments. Let's create some programs that draw different things like points, lines, or Bezier curves, and they spin slowly around the screen. So let's make first a cloud of points that is rotating slowly. Let's start here by writing our setup, and let's define our size, and let's tell processing that we want to do 3D stuff. So that's why I enter here P3D, and I will erase the screen with black color, background 0, and let's draw here void draw. I will start by erasing the screen, and we will draw here a box of size 300, and we want to make it turn around or spin around its axis. So I will enter here rotate Y. So we need here a number that is increasing if we want to make it rotate. I can use frame count, and let's see what effect do we get. So the cube is rotating super fast, so we have to divide this by some number to make it move slower. I will divide it by 100.0, and the 0.0 is important. We can try it without 0.0, but I think you know what's going to happen. It just sometimes rotates. If I enter 0.0, then it's rotating all the time and slowly, which is what I want. I want to bring it to the center of the screen, so we should use translate, and width divided by 2 and height divided by 2. And I'm going to switch off the fill, no fill, and let's make the lines white. So I think this is, now it's looking pretty good. That's a good start. Now I want to have some objects inside this cube so we can see them rotate together with the cube. So how could we define a cloud of points? That's something like a collection of 100 points. So we're gonna need some arrays for that. I'm gonna define them here, int square brackets, to tell this is an array. So the variable x is an array, and it's gonna be an array with 100 elements. So I type new int and 100. 100 is the number of elements. I repeat this exact line for the variable y, new int 100, and same for the variable z. So now we have told processing that we want to use these 3 arrays, and that each array has 100 elements, but we have not told processing yet what are the values. They are just empty for now. So to solve this, after we have initialized these things, the screen size, the background color, and the other colors, after this, let's go through each of those 100 positions in those arrays and store some data there. Let's make up some random numbers and fill these arrays with random numbers. So let's make a for loop. I will say here int I is 0. So we start with this I variable being 0, and while it's less than 100, increase it. So this way we can go through the 100 positions in our arrays. I'm gonna say here x of I is random minus 150, 150. Since I is changing, x of y will mean different things. It will be x0, x1, x2, up to x99. And each time we just make up some random number. I chose minus 150 and 150 because those are numbers that will go well with this box. If the box is 300 pixels from side to side, that means that if we want to have these points inside this box, we should use these numbers, minus 150 and 150. And we again repeat this line for the other 2 variables. Y of I is random minus 150, 150, and z of I is random minus 150, 150. Now when the setup function finishes here, we have these 3 arrays full of numbers. Each array contains 100 numbers between minus 150 and 150. So now we should do something with all those numbers. Let's draw lots of points. Here, after drawing this box, I'm gonna go through all these variables again. We went through them here, assigning numbers, and now we go again through these numbers, drawing points. So I'm gonna say here for int I is 0, I is less than 100, I plus plus. This line is identical to the one above. And now finally just let's draw some points. Point x, y, and z. But that's not enough. We have to specify which x. So I will say x of I, y of I, and z of I. So we will go through x0, x1, x2, up to x99. So let's try the program and see now what happens. Processing doesn't like that random always returns float numbers, but our variable here is an integer, and we cannot store directly a float value inside an integer. So what I do is just type here int parentheses and just surround this whole expression by int open and close parentheses. So we are converting the float number into an integer, and that should be enough. So now we have here a cube, and it's full of these points in random positions, and they all spin together. We could make the lines and the points a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna add here stroke weight 2. So maybe it's easier to see in case you couldn't see them well a second ago. Okay, what if we want to have 400 points instead of 100? Or we could change all these 100s here, and then this loop, this y is less than 100, and the same thing down here. But when you have to change one value in many places, it's usually better just to declare a new variable, for example, amount. So I'm going to say int amount is 300. And now I can just copy this, and I'm going to paste it. Each time here we have 100 for our loop and for the other loop down here. So now we can very easily change the amount of points floating there. We could say 300 or 1000. So now we have many more points spinning around inside this cube. Let's see how it looks like deactivating the box. So we just see the floating points here. It's also interesting. And what happens if I get rid of the background? So we don't erase the screen. That's a nice effect. This looks like some kind of tornado or something. Maybe this would look better again with the stroke of 1 instead of 2. So the lines are thinner. So in next episode we will play with the same idea, but instead of drawing points, we can draw lines, or we can draw Bezier curves and see how those look like when they are spinning inside this cube.